Hello, hello, hello. I have only done like one live since I took my prolonged break. I got a hair on my mouth. And I just missed y'all. So I was like, who do I come here and do a live with today? Like, of course, one of my dear sweet friends, Dr. Imani Walker, and you all might know her as Dr. Imani from Married to Medicine. So I will have her on here once she comes and shows up, and we're going to give everyone a chance to show up so we can have this conversation specifically about mental health, because let's be real, right now is a heavy time. A lot of people, hey y'all, how are you doing? A lot of people are experiencing some heavy thoughts. All of us. No one is necessarily exempt from this. So I think what better to do than to talk about mental health? I obviously love talking about mental health. I am myself a mental health expert. And Imani is going to come on here and really break it down. So the reason I think this is so important is a lot of states aren't doing a lot to deal with a pending mental health crisis. So the Kaiser Foundation, which is obviously the hospital, and they do a lot of research, and they found that almost 50% of Americans are experiencing some level of mental health struggle, some type of anguish, and 50% is a lot. That is a lot of Americans that are experiencing distress. So if you are experiencing any type of mental health concern, this is things like depression, symptoms of anxiety or worry. I mean, who's not worried right now? So if you're experiencing anything like that, you fall in 50% of Americans. I mean, that is a beyond number for people who are suffering and dealing with mental health issues. Hey, girl. Oh, first of all, I think
Hey,
you were coming like that, though.
wait, hold on one second. Let me turn this light on. Let me turn this light on.
Oh,
Because I'm notoriously everyone's like, you're always late to your things. I'm like, you know what? Let me just live my life real quick. Let me get
no,
my
live your
lighting a
entire
little
life.
better.
Girl, first of all,
Um, yeah, let me see.
you
I'm
look
not,
flawless with that
I
lipstick.
do? Oh, thanks.
You look amazing.
Because I was just taking a nap. But yeah, you look
Of course,
great. It's
of
so
course,
good to
of
see
course.
you.
Because listen, okay, y'all. So first of all, I love Imani. Good to see you too, babe. And I
Yeah,
know
good to
Imani in
see
real
you,
life,
Allison.
and she actually looks like this every day. I'm not even gonna lie. She actually looks like this every day. Pretty effortless. So I do believe that you may have been taking a nap. I actually might believe that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you know what? My effortlessness or perception thereof is more so a testament to the fact that I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just get these eyelash extensions. I don't feel like dealing with makeup. I don't feel like dealing with nothing. So yeah, I'm gonna move this one more time because I'm really
Yeah,
anal and I'm trying to get my light to be
you are
as good
pretty
as it
flawless.
can be.
Okay.
But okay,
Yeah, I was just
fine.
telling
Here
the
we are.
people that
Yay.
the Kaiser Foundation found that 50% of Americans are struggling with mental health right now. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, we're having a mental health or mental illness rather epidemic of national and global proportions. It's really bad.
yeah. And I just think that, I mean, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but I reached out to some people at California State, like the state level, to address what's going on. What are we
Right.
doing here?
Right.
And the answer was not what I'm about to say is not what they said. But from my
What?
perspective, it's kind of like nothing. That's not what this person
Right.
said. But I'm not seeing anything, is my
Hmm.
concern. And I know that we have a lot of people that before COVID, we had millions of Americans before COVID that were dealing with mental health issues. And there's a huge amount of stigma associated with it. And I mean, the way that I know Imani is that I worked so far beneath her at this hospital that I was almost inconsequential,
No,
invisible.
I mean but
But
we were in different departments, so it's
no, because your department was head of everything. So,
well, yeah. But I'm saying I was medicine and you were psychology, so it was
yeah,
so there's a split. Yeah.
yeah. But I just absolutely fell in love with her. And so, like, what are some things since you're still in the world? Because I'm doing a coaching thing now, so I'm not so in the mental health space. What are
Hmm.
you seeing?
I mean, as you know, I see the more severe types of mental illness. So I have been seeing as far as patients that have been in my care before COVID, I've been seeing a lot of them like starting to decompensate. You know, I didn't really realize how much people who have severe mental illness really need structure. Like, I know they need structure, but then sometimes, like at the facility that we both used to work at, they'll AWOL and they'll leave. But the issue now is that there are people with such severe mental illness that their days aren't as structured as they were before COVID. So I actually had a patient, I want to say this was maybe like 2 months in, actually commit suicide. Like yeah, and it was really sad, but he basically, one of the things he said, and he was trying to kind of, I guess, what's the best way I can say this? There was some manipulation and some like, you know, guilt tripping that he had attempted to do before he died. But one of the things that he did say, he was like, you know, like basically we're used to getting up, we take a walk, then we eat, then we go to group therapy, then we have individual therapy, then we do, you know, occupational therapy. And basically because they couldn't go into the facility that they were used to going into, that lack of structure really has started to mess people up, and their symptoms have gotten worse. But I think, you know, as important as that, there are a lot of people that I'm seeing with new onset issues.
Yes.
And so anxiety has been the top mental illness that we as Americans struggle with year after year. But now it's on a level of like, I've been trying to spread the word, just like you've been trying to figure out, like, state level, what are we doing? Like, what are we really trying to do to let people know that, like, yes, we hear you, we're struggling, but we really hear you, and we really are acknowledging that mentally we're not in a good place, because day to day, like, things change. Like, I woke up, I woke up on Sunday, somebody else black got shot. Then there's all this stuff that happening with this 17-year-old boy who, you know, is like shot two people, and then right, and we're protesters. And then, you know, we hear that Tucker Carlson on Fox News is like, well, he's echoing the sentiment of the police. And the police apparently told this boy, this 17-year-old boy, well, you know, thank you for doing the work that we couldn't do. And then Tucker Carlson agrees with it. I'm like, what is the art?
That's it. And so we're just talking about mental health in general, right? Dealing with COVID, dealing with an existential nightmare where people are dying, people are sick, especially in the Black community, right? This is something that hits the Black community in a particularly hard way. I had a friend recently break down to me why it is that it is actually affecting African Americans more, and it has to do with angiotensin converting enzyme, right? The way that our body actually signals virus is different, specifically in African Americans, Native Americans, Latin Americans, or Latin people in general, and Italians. And so specifically looking at ACE, we do not, so COVID is going to be an issue in our communities, like no matter what. People think it's a conspiracy, blah, 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 blah. We can talk about that shit later.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's here to stay.
It's here to stay. It's the way we have to live, and it is fundamentally stressful. And then on top of that, superimposed over that, now the African American community is dealing with old school fears, right? Policing has not, this isn't new, right? This isn't something that just popped up during COVID. Like, this has been an issue for a long time, and we're sitting here experiencing secondary trauma by watching videos of Black men shot in front of their kids. Like, I can't watch any more of these videos.
No, I don't. I as a rule, I don't watch things like I know how it ended. You know, I know the spoiler alert. Like, I know, like, this person's dead. I don't need to see the manner in which the person died. I can read about it, but I don't have to subject myself to that. I was just looking on here, and it looks like someone had a question. ZBlue25,
Yeah.
Is telehealth a benefit? Are you seeing a positive impact? Yeah, like, if it weren't for telehealth and telepsychiatry, I would not be getting any checks right now. Because that's the majority. I mean, real talk, because the majority of my income is still being a doctor. So I have been seeing patients exclusively via the telephone, via video conferencing. And it's really important in the mental health field that we are able to be in the same room, if possible, with our patients, because there's a lot of subtle nuances that we have to pick up on. And if it weren't for telemedicine, you know, I wouldn't be able to do my job effectively. So I would say definitely telehealth has been helping.
And then even talking about EMDR and types of therapeutic interventions for trauma where you have to like look at a light or something or experience like a buzzer. It's harder to do, but telehealth allows you to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
have you noticed any hesitation in clients to switch to telehealth?
No, actually, I was really surprised that, you know, again, oh, my video's blurry. I'm sorry, because my
Yeah, you're a
Wi-Fi
little blurry.
sucks right here. I'm sorry.
Well, all Wi-Fi sucks.
The
It's just the way the world
yeah,
is.
yeah. The I was really
Okay, girl,
surprised
she's
because my
100%
patients,
virtual.
oh nice. My patients definitely are used to me going to wherever they're staying or wherever they're living and go see them. And I was kind of concerned, but really it's like they took to it and there were no missteps. Like it was like, hey, it's me, it's
Yeah.
Dr. Walker. They're like, hey, okay, great. This was going on. Da, da, da. Like it's well, I think as long as they can see me, and I think as long as, at least with the patients I see on the phone, I think as long as they can hear my voice, they really
Yeah.
took to it really well. I was really, really surprised because I was like, this could be a nightmare. And I stopped going to physically see my patients. I was wearing a mask and everything else, but because the patients that I see come from um, the correctional system, you know, and yes, they may have had a
There's a
negative
lot of
COVID
COVID.
test, but they would like AWOL and then come back. And I was like, I cannot get sick. Like, I can't get sick. Because that's like 300 people that
Let me
wouldn't
tell you,
have.
a negative COVID test and a negative COVID test doesn't mean nothing to me right now. Because I'm like, I don't know what you've been
Right.
doing since you took that test, where you've been since you
Right.
took it. But anyways, but it's real. That's amazing that you were doing that. And somebody asked, what is a Black resource for telehealth? And somebody posted therapy for Black girls, and that's a really wonderful site. Do you know of any other sites for Black therapists, Imani?
Um, I
I think that's like the
do.
main.
I do, but if I needed to look them up, I would have to actually go like get off of
Yeah,
here and go find it. But
yeah,
I've been referring people to therapyforblackgirls.com mainly because when you type in like Black therapist or Black psychiatrist or whatever, Google, usually it's what
yeah,
is
girl,
it
you're
called?
coming in and out.
It's usually it's Psychology Today, but then it will kind of like
Mm-hmm.
it'll give you choices of therapists, but I'm like, this person is not Black. So I
Because
don't know
see,
what I'm supposed to do.
on Psychology Today, I always refer them, but you can only find a Black doctor if they have like their face on there,
Exactly.
or
Right.
if they say specifically, I work with people who are African American. But Therapy for Black Girls is a wonderful resource. I absolutely obsess over it.
Yeah.
Virus is transmutes hourly. Got to be safe. Yeah, girl. Yeah, I don't mess around with this COVID stuff. Like, you know, you might not know, but I'm in my house. Like, I am somebody. I have a diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder. I have had bouts with OCD, and over the course of my life, like anxiety is my shit. Okay, it is what I do. It is what I have. And the first 2 weeks of COVID, I was frozen. Like I didn't do any. I was petrified
Mhm.
because viruses and sickness has always been something that I've battled with. Like the fear of getting sick, the fear of getting contaminated has always been hard for me. And so this was crazy hard. And so meeting with my therapist helped. I even started taking medication for a hot second, but it just didn't work with me. So I have to like switch over. Um, I was taking hydroxyzine. No,
Yeah. I think you
it's
told me
a
you were taking Visceral.
yeah, it was the antihistamine one,
Mhm. Exactly. You know what I'm gonna
right? Yeah,
do? I'm gonna go
your connection's like,
downstairs because my
you want to come
connection
back?
is messed up. Yeah, so I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah.
Okay, one sec.
Okay. Well, I'll see Dr. Money in 5 seconds.
Okay.
Bye. All right, y'all. So yeah, so that was the medication that I was taking because this is like a straight up shit show. So any more questions? So when Imani comes back, oh, the Boris Lawrence Henderson Foundation offers free therapy for Black people. So can I like lock that in for y'all so you can see that? Yeah. The Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation. Thank you. And I work with dual diagnosis individuals, and most times they can speak. I never know what type of impact it has on them when we're wearing a mask, because it might be a little different, right? When you're meeting a client with a mask. So any questions? So yeah, if y'all have any questions for Dr. Imani, any questions for myself, you probably aren't following me. I mean, but you're following Dr. Imani, and we all obsess with her and love her so very much. So anything else? She'll be back like, oh, will she be back on the next season? Okay, we'll ask her that. All right, I'm in psych middle school and loving this live. Oh, yay. Hey girl, how you doing? DRK Beauty Healing offers free therapy for women of color. Okay, wow. Did the medication actually help you? So love Ham X. I like that. It did actually, but what it did to me, because it's an antihistamine, and I guess I'm really sensitive to antihistamines, it like dried out my entire body. So I was like, I woke up and my mouth was like really dry, and like my elbows were cracky and dry for some reason. And so I just, so I like talked to my doctor and we like adjusted, and it was still just too drying for me. So it made me feel great though, emotionally. Like I wasn't feeling anxious anymore. I wasn't feeling worried, and it wasn't super sedative like a benzo would be, like a benzodiazepine is something like a Xanax. And it didn't put me down like that. Yeah, hydroxyzine, I don't know if that's what it's called. They call her Miss. It's an antihistamine. It's a little bit more powerful than Xanax, and it's something that psychiatrists can give you for anxiety. I'm not the psychiatrist. You got to talk to Dr. Imani about that. But it's something that my psychiatrist gave to me. And Gauge Girl Mama, sorry, I'm psych NP school and living this life. Yeah, like let me tell you, mental health is a wonderful industry to get into. It's not for the faint of heart. It's for people who have lots of empathy, and you always have to work to protect yourself, to make sure that you are like ready for the heaviness that might come to you. But it is really, 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 really rewarding. And so, but the medication did help me, but it was a little drying, but it gave me a little mile marker to know like, this is the feeling I'm going for. The first time I ever took medication, I was like heading somewhere and I was getting on a flight, and I was super scared. I am super scared of flying. And so I took some medication prescribed to me by my doctor appropriately. And I had never felt calm in my life. I realized like after I'd taken this medication, I was like, oh my God, like my entire life I've been nervous. And so it gave me a benchmark for this is what I want to feel like when I meditate, when I try to find peace. This is the feeling I'm aiming for, because I had never felt calm before and didn't know even what the feeling was. Hey, boo.
Okay. Hey, I hope this is better. Now I actually need to like turn a little bit.
You're like, window. Can we talk about the like amazing house you have?
Oh, you mean with this wall?
With that window in the backyard?
Well, yeah. Yeah, there's like a window in the backyard, my little pool and stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to get my lighting situation together. So I apologize. Sorry.
That's it. That's it. So wait, I said I was on hydroxyzine. Is that what I was actually on? What did you say?
Yeah. So you were taking Vistara, which is hydroxyzine. And it's fine. Hydroxyzine is a medication that is related to, let's say, Benadryl. It kind of is an antihistamine in a way. But just like how with Benadryl, like if you take Benadryl for, let's say, longer than a week for sleep, it doesn't really work long. It won't keep working long term.
Okay.
So when it comes to Visceral, it's kind of the same way. Like if anything, it just makes you sleepy.
Yeah.
After a while, I mean, which can decrease your anxiety, but I like to be awake during the daytime.
Yeah,
I don't really like to be.
It was actually good for me. What it did is it dried me the fuck out. My elbow, my mouth was like sandpaper. But okay, so someone's saying like, who am I? I'm Dr. Ally. I am.
Yeah, like that's you. Like, hi, welcome to my Instagram.
Dr. Ally. No, because like a lot of these people are here for Dr. Imani. So yeah, I'm Dr. Ally, and Dr. Imani has an MD in psychiatry. In psychiatry.
I have a DO. I have a doctor in osteopathy. Yeah. I am a medical doctor.
She is a medical doctor.
I'm a medical doctor, but I went to osteopathic school instead of allopathic school. So allopathic school is MD. Osteopathic medical school, we get a doctor in osteopathy. So I have a DO.
because it's a little bit more holistic and it talks a little bit more about everything and it connects things a little bit better to like the world and how all of our systems work.
Yeah, it does. I actually really was excited to have been accepted to an osteopathic school because that's really kind of my mindset. Like, um, for example, I'll see a patient, they're like, oh, you know what? I'm having problems sleeping. And I'm like, okay, well, is there any reason, like, is there any reason why you could have a problem sleeping? And they'll be like, oh, for example, I have frequent urination at night. So instead of me saying, oh, let me give you a medication to keep you asleep, I don't want that person to like pee the bed or wake up like, oh my God, I got to run to the restroom. So yeah, it's definitely the mind frame that, or the way of thinking that osteopathy taught me in medical school is one that I basically like keep. Because sometimes, I mean, yeah, in a lot of cases with my patients, they do need medication, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's a medical issue and not a psychiatric issue.
That's it. It's because we have to consider bodies as systems. We are not, it's the brain is not excluded from the heart. The heart is not excluded from the kidney. Our whole body functions together. And I have a lot of theories on decolonizing medicine and how we really need to go back to integrative medicine. My cousin's a DO, and so I sat down with him a lot.
Oh, nice.
And we have a lot of combos. Yeah, but I am a PhD, so I have a doctorate in philosophy, so like a doctorate in talking and thinking about things and connecting creative ideas. But I have my PhD in clinical psychology with an emphasis in health, and I've rotated through like a bunch of hospitals here in Southern California. And I decided to settle on working in media and working in consultancy and working in the coaching space. I worked way under Dr. Imani. Like I was literally like bottom of the bucket. But I actually, it was a fun, I loved all the clients there. We all remember the whatever I had with other people there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think somebody asked like, what's the deal with THC, and I think they were asking like maybe about anxiety or just THC and like mental health issues. So what I usually say to people is that, me and Allycin both live in California where it is legal recreationally and medicinally. So what I usually tell people is that, you know, if like, honestly, like dispensaries, the people that work in dispensaries, honestly, most of the ones I've been to, they are very knowledgeable. So I think that, you know, do your research first. When you go to the dispensary, you know, ask whoever's helping you, you know, for what you might need. But I always tell people, you know, if you have a history of psychosis, like if you ever become like really paranoid, or if you've ever had hallucinations, like you heard voices or you saw things that really weren't there, or even if you have a family history of someone becoming psychotic, those are people that I always tell them you really should use it with caution, because marijuana can bring out psychotic symptoms. So
Absolutely.
it's something that I think can be very helpful, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I stay away from it. It's not a medication for me. I just become super anxious.
Yeah. I mean, I use it. I have depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I have major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. And I have used cannabis in the past for anxiety, and it's been helpful. But quite honestly, earlier this year, I got put on Prozac, and that's been like a complete game changer for me. Like I feel like I just started really living like this year. So that's been really good.
That's deep. I was telling them that the first time I used an anti-anxiety medication like years ago, I realized for the first time I had never been calm in my life. The feeling that the medication gave me, I'd never felt. And so now I have the same medication as a PRN. So a PRN, I honestly don't even know what PRN stands for, but it basically means you use the medication.
Latin. It's like, it stands for like three words. I forgot what it is, but it basically means like you take something as needed.
Exactly, as needed. So you take it when you need it. And I almost never have to use it because now I know what it feels like to be calm. And so I target that feeling when I meditate or when I cope or exercise or whatever. But if your doctor says to take it, take it. Do not be ashamed. Medication works. Yeah, y'all are great. So because I just think that there's so much going on. So for those of you that just showed up, so we've talked a little bit about how there's a huge mental health crisis going on. I mean, because there's COVID, There's political unrest, there's actual unrest in the streets, there's police brutality, there's fears in the African American community. I'm sure there are fears in other communities as well. I'm due to siloing, my Twitter tends to focus on African American issues, but there's a lot of things going on. So how long did you take your or try to adjust your Prozac? How long did you take it?
So I've been taking Prozac since, I think it was like the first Friday in February of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I started taking Prozac, and I actually got prescribed Prozac by an OB-GYN, because I went there because I was like, listen, every week before my period, I get crazy, like homicidal crazy. Like, it's like I felt like I was having mood swings, and I would just be really tired, and like it was like physically I would like just get super bloated. It was a mess. So I had been thinking for years, I would say to myself for years, like, yo, like you should probably think about trying Prozac. But I was like, you know what, it's fine, I'm gonna just keep exercising and doing what I need to do. In any case, when I went to the OB-GYN and I explained to her my issue, she was like, well, it sounds like you have premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a matter, like I was going to change my like birth control. I have an IUD, and I was like, I need to change it to an IUD with hormones or something with progestin so that I'm not so just out of whack every month. And so she was like, well, it sounds like you've had depression and anxiety. And then when you have PMD, like PMDD is often found in people who already have mood disorders like depression and anxiety. So she was like, well, you know, I will, you know, I'm going to prescribe you Prozac because it's FDA approved. And I took it. Long story short, to answer your question, it took me 3 days to get adjusted to Prozac. And I was really surprised because typically when I see patients and I put them on an antidepressant, it takes anywhere from like, let's say 3 to 4 weeks to up to 8 weeks. And I was like, I'm feeling better already. Like maybe it's a placebo effect. But when I went online and looked at journal articles, lo and behold, it was also reported by other patients who had taken Prozac for PMDD that it works within 48 to 72 hours.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I was like, so like you, like this is the first time I haven't felt anxiety all the time. Like I got so used to it being in my chest all the time, I didn't know what it was like to not have it. So when I started taking Prozac and it went away, I was like, damn. I was like, not only am I happy, like I'm happy and the sky is bluer, but like this crushing, like it felt like somebody was like crushing my sternum in my chest, went away. So I was really, really, really happy about that.
And I think what's something important to note too is that, you know, someone mentioned mind-body connection, that one does not exist without the other. Our mind is a projection of our body, right? It's a projection of our brain. Like the brain is like the projector, and our mind is the image that you see projected by the projector. And so we experience mental health issues partly like sometimes because of actual biochemistry things, because of actual body things, and our body can be impacted by the way that we feel, the things that we think, things like that. And so absolutely having to like tap into your body and understand, where do you feel sadness, where do you feel anxiety, how do you experience depression? A lot of clients have even told me that depression feels like you're almost like when you have the flu, and
it does, like you just feel fatigued, and it's like I can totally attest to that, like legit
foggy, lethargic. It's you don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to do anything. And so understanding that body connection is good, because there's also a lot of judgment that goes into mental health. And a lot of times people will sit there and judge themselves and say, well, you know, I'm a this or a that because I feel like this, like, oh, what's wrong with me? And it's like, no, that's what happens. We're connected. Everything's connected.
Right.
I'm on Lexapro, quite interesting. Yeah, so I just think that it's so deep, and I love that you share about this, because I think that it's important for people to know that just because you're on the other side of mental health and you're helping people doesn't mean you don't have mental health issues sometimes that need attention and like support. And somebody had asked, when do you know that you even need medication? What would you say, Imani? What do you think?
I would say that, I mean, first of all, you would need to go see a mental health clinician. I know that in some states, what are they called? Psychiatric. So like nurse NPs, like psychiatric nurse practitioners. In some states, they do have the ability to prescribe medication. However, I would just, you know, say that I do find nurse NPs to be very knowledgeable and helpful, especially because we've always been in a state, at least over the past 15, 20 years, of having like a dearth of psychiatrists. But I would say, you know, as a psychiatrist, somebody like I went to school for this, I trained for this, like this is like what I do. I think the best thing to do is go see a psychiatrist or go see somebody, or at the very least go see like a family practitioner.
Yeah.
Actually, family practitioners they prescribe antidepressants the most out of even psychiatrists. So that being said,
because there's
yeah,
no stigma going to your family doctor, and they can identify depression. You know, they see it all the time, and so they're
right.
able to be helpful. So I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say go see a doctor. I know sometimes it's harder to see a doctor, but I would also like to say, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, like telemedicine exists. And for a lot of us, like psychiatry at this point in time, like is really basically keeping everything together.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's like because I can't really go into the facility physically anymore. So how would you know this time to see a doctor? I mean, really the doctor would be able to tell you. But I would say if you have depression, if you are having, you know, any changes in appetite, any change with your sleep pattern, and I mean increased appetite or decrease, or increased sleep or decreased sleep. If you're having issues with concentration, if you're fatigued all the time, if your energy's low, if you're feeling guilt and shame, if you know, I think I may have said decreased motivation
Also
already, but
suicide. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's like suicidal thoughts. That's when it's like, okay, call 911.
Yeah.
But you know, just to answer the person's question, like go see a doctor.
Yeah. Go see
Go
a
see a doctor. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of doctors are making telehealth very available
Mm-hmm.
through all different types of platforms. And then somebody here is also asking about family members. So if you have a family member that is maybe expressing or showing some of the symptoms that you had just mentioned, how do you go about convincing them? Because I think that, did they use the word convince, or am I adding that?
I mean, I think convince or consider. I think that's
Consider.
fine
Yeah,
too.
consider is
Yeah.
probably better. I think I
I would I would say that when it comes to family, and I've definitely dealt with this in my family. My family kind of has a lot of different, let's say, illnesses going on. There's some bipolar going on. There's mostly depression and anxiety. You know, some substance use issues. But that being said, I think that the best way to go about it is, you know, first of all, don't be confrontational. Okay. Cause I mean, even if like I'm not sick right now, but if somebody came up to me and was like, yo, you need to do da 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 da, I just be like, you know what, you need to like fall back. Like I don't like don't be confrontational. I think the best way to really I think the best way to really go about it is probably something, Allycin, I know you're used to it because we see patients, and there's like sometimes you have to kind of like lead them to the water. So it's like, hey, you know what? I've noticed that you seem a little different. Like I've known you for a minute. You seem a little different. You seem to be fill in the blank, irritable, angry, sad. And you know, like do you think that you felt that way? And you kind of have to lead them to the point of like, okay, boom, like since you've admitted that, I'm glad you did because that's what I saw. And I think that it might be a good idea if you maybe saw someone. And especially now, like you don't have to go see someone in an office, because let me tell you, as somebody who takes medication, and you can attest to this too, Allycin, it's like first I had to like accept the fact that this doctor who's known me for 5 minutes like is like, yeah, bitch, you need Prozac. So that was one. Then it was like, okay, now I got to go to the pharmacy, drive there, go inside, wait online, give them my info, get the bottle, open it, and take it. There's a lot of steps involved that
And
a
remember
lot
to
of
take it.
people, yeah, I
It's
mean,
a
and then you
twice
got
a
to
day
remember to
thing.
take it every day.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of steps. And even though, you know, I have been to therapy in the past, it's much different when you're now like a patient, because I mean, I see patients all the time and I'm like, yo, you need to take this, that, and the third. And in most cases they do it. But when the tables are flipped, I was like, damn, this is hard. Like there's a
It
lot of steps
is.
involved in this,
It
you
really is.
know?
It's hard to, especially when you're in a bad space, when you're having like an episode, it's hard to remember all the time. And somebody even is just asking right now, like when we talk about a lot of these symptoms, you know, how he said they didn't really sound, he or she, they said they didn't sound that severe. And so with these symptoms, yeah, a lot, sometimes there's normal like amounts of, maybe someone's sleep changes kind of in a normal way, or their appetite might change in a typical way. But what we're looking for is functional impairments, right?
Yes.
So this means that like you're sleeping so much that now you're missing classes, or you're not going to work and you're getting fired from your job because you're so sleepy, or you're not sleeping to the point where you've now painted your entire house and you haven't slept in 3 days. And now it's difficult for you to engage in conversation with people because you're speaking too fast, or things like that. So we're looking for the symptoms to raise to a level where it is actually causing an impairment to an area of your life.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing I want to mention too is that apparently in March, alcohol consumption jumped by 40%. Right. I mean, no one's surprised, but that being said, I'm really, again, stressing people it's actually a little bit easier now to find help, like mental health help, like as far as like finding a psychiatrist or a therapist, because we're mostly at home. Right. So if you are having functional impairments to your life, then, a lot of times, especially now, like it's really a matter of downloading an app,
There's so many
there's so many good ones, and it's actually nice because then you don't have to go anywhere. Like you're in your house, you can still, be in your pajamas and you could talk to somebody, and then that's the one thing that it's a silver lining throughout this epidemic. The fact that, thank God that we have the technology that we have today, because there's no way we would. I mean, even though things are not great and they're not back to, we're never going to get back to pre-COVID normalcy. But if it weren't for technology today, we would not be where we are. So self-medicating is definitely going up, but I really just want to implore, somebody, and not somebody, but I really want to implore everybody who's out there, like, get the help. And it's out there. It's on your phone.
Yeah, that's it. You have access to it now because of this beautiful piece of technology that we have, that we've never had access to this much information. And in a way, it's kind of this, like, I don't know what they call it, like the fallacy of choice, is that when you have so many choices and so many things available to you, a lot of times people just don't make a choice at all, because it's a little overwhelming to make a decision among 55 million apps. It's like, fuck it, I'm just going to go on Twitter and just call it a day, And fuck it, I'm not going to cope that way.
Right, I'm not doing this no more. Right.
And then we also rely on old coping mechanisms when we're under stress. If you haven't used a new coping mechanism enough to where it's really become ingrained in you, you kind of rely back on something old, which is what I'm, with a lot of people that I've worked with and just friends in general, people have come to me and they're talking about, like, I've been taking an edible every night now, where I was only doing it like once a month. And I've been drinking alcohol every single day, 3 times a day. People are smoking weed, 5 times a day. And it's not what they're used to doing, because there's external coping, there's internal coping, there's effective coping, there's ineffective coping. And when you're looking for a coping mechanism that really is going to help you, you're looking for something that will work in the long term. So drinking alcohol is a short-term coping mechanism. You might feel better.
Not long-term.
It's not long-term. You can't drink every day for the rest of your life. It's not going to really it's not going to lead to a productive life. There's things that you have to be present for. You have to drive, and you clearly cannot drive while you're inebriated. And so whenever I'm talking to people about finding coping mechanisms, I tend to go inward, right? Because there's also external coping mechanisms like running and talking to friends and, going on social media in a very responsible way. But you don't always have access to that. And so being able to rely on like positive self-talk, meditation, deep breathing, scanning your body, grounding, those are things that you can always take with you. And they are things that do not hurt you in the long run.
Right.
It never hurts you to take a really good deep breath. Unless.
Yeah. I mean, and quite honestly, when was it? Was it 2 nights ago, 2 or 3 nights ago? I've been taking Prozac. I've been cool. Everything's been great.
Yeah.
And then I woke up out of sleep. This is the second time it happened. I woke up out of sleep, anxious. I was like, oh my God. I felt like I couldn't stop moving. I was just like, oh my God, what's happening? And I had to basically deep breathe myself back to sleep. And this is coming from somebody I'm chilling. I'm at home all the time. I like being at home. I feel great. But for whatever reason, there were things that I thought 2020 would be. Like there's a way I thought 2020 would be. And the fact that 2020 has been different, it hasn't really been a terrible thing, but it still is something where like I don't know what's happening. None of us know what's happening on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just I mean, I think I just got overwhelmed but wasn't aware of it.
And you know, and I think that's a good point too, is that sometimes we can be so in this like grind mode, like get things done, that it's hard to focus on when we have these emotions that are coming up, because we're kind of like, I just gotta deal with it. My kids are home now. My, you know, everything's different. Work is different. The way that I go about, you know, my life is different. And so you're so focused on that it's hard to really pay attention to the fact that you were anxious earlier, just kind of like, whatever. But then it'll come and catch up with you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's anxiety. Anxiety is basically like, oh, remember when you didn't deal with that shit from before? Here's the thing, I'm gonna make you feel it, but like worse. Like you're gonna feel panicky, and maybe next time you'll deal with your shit. But you know, if you don't want to, it's cool. I'm just gonna keep making you anxious. It's like that's basically what it is.
I'm gonna keep making you feel like this. Like, since none of these people, these wonderful people, are my followers. Like, I just lost my dad a few months ago, and so I definitely didn't come into 2020 thinking that something like that was going to happen. And then a month before my dad passed away, my mom was in the hospital with like a life-threatening infection, and she was very, very ill. And it was really bad. And
no, so I remember you telling me, I was just like, damn, like it's terrible.
Heavy. My dad did not pass away of COVID, but a long-term heart disease that he had. But this is a heavy year. It's a time when we're all being confronted with life and death, when we're being confronted with how do I deal with shit when it comes up, when you don't always get the exact amount of time that we want. Like, because a lot of people right now are parents.
Yeah.
And parenting has changed a lot for people. One of the biggest groups of people with depression and anxiety symptoms on the rise are new mothers that are mothers right now during COVID. It is, I think there's like
even without COVID, being a new mother is like, oh my God, like what's happening? And now with this, it's like, oh my God.
Literally. And I think the numbers
oh my God.
like, I think there's like a 47% increase in anxiety among new moms this year as opposed to last year. You know, and so it is real. Everything has pivoted, everything has shifted, and it is forcing all of us to take these like very real looks into ourselves. Like, who am I? How do I cope with this? How do I deal with this?
There's a question on here that I wanted to address from Almond Joy 71, and she wrote, any comments on dementia in our community? I'm 47 and I feel like I have early onset dementia, but I'm always dismissed by all medical professionals. My poor memory really bothers me. So here's what I would say. I don't know you. I don't know if you've ever had, you know, a cerebral vascular event, meaning like you've had like transient ischemic attacks or like mini strokes. I don't know your medical history, but the one thing that I do want to touch on is that poor concentration, which can sometimes be tied to memory, is oftentimes a sign, like an early sign of depression or anxiety. Because it's hard when you're anxious to not be constantly like, oh my God, oh shit. And so it's not that your memory is bad, just that your concentration can be really, really bad because you're constantly focusing on like, you know, like what, like, okay, what's going on? Similarly, poor concentration is also a symptom of depression. So, like I said, you know, I don't know your medical history. I don't know if you have psychiatric issues in your family history, Almond Joy 71, but I think that it's probably worth you trying to find a doctor who is more receptive. And if you've been dismissed by medical professionals, and I don't know if these are internists or family practitioners or people who, let's say, don't have direct mental health clinical experience, you might want to go and seek someone out in the mental health sphere.
Exactly. You can get psychiatric and psychological testing to look into symptoms of dementia. And any psychologist will be able to give you that testing so that they can really begin to differentiate. And it's very good. I used to give that testing, and it's very good at differentiating organic dementias, maybe from, you know, something like an Alzheimer's or something like what Dr. Imani was saying, like a vascular event that may have happened, from anxiety or depression related memory impairment. So we're looking at working memory. So there's working memory deficits. And what that means is that's the memory that we have of about 5 to 10 minutes. And it's your short-term memory. And you can have deficits in short-term memory because, just like Dr. Imani was saying, if you are so fragmented while you're trying to do what's called encode memory, it's not able to get to a place where it's now stored in your long-term memory, because there's a process by which we encode memories. And if you're not able to really encode them because you're nervous or because you're sad or because you're otherwise preoccupied, then you're going to experience some memory issues, some memory losses. Also, other types of medications can cause memory loss and kind of a fogginess. And so you also, like what she was saying, like sitting down with your doctor and looking at all of that, right? And have there been other changes? And I mean, obviously there's a lot of stress going on. So you do know your body and you do know yourself. And so advocating for yourself with your doctors and keep looking and seeing if there is something to it. But if you're having a hard time remembering, it could be a number of different things, unfortunately. So it's hard to peg that.
Yeah.
And even in depression,
That's a huge differential diagnosis list. Like, like it's really big.
Huge. Even migraine can cause some memory. I mean, there's like literally, you know, and long-term depression can cause hippocampal density issues. And the hippocampus is where we store long-term memories. And it's also the part of our brain that rejuvenates and regrows the quickest. So, you know, it is absolutely something that can be, you know, whatever. We don't know what you got, girl. That's all we're basically saying. Find somebody who can really support you, but not crazy.
We don't know what you have, but, you know, it could be something mental health related. That's, you know, that I think, you know, that's kind of the takeaway, especially when, I mean, I'm definitely a Western medicine doctor, but I have, you know, attempted to use non-Western medicine methods to cope with certain things. So, you know, the little bit that I know right now about from that Almond Joy 71 told us is that, what is that?
I got stones right here, girl. This is a
I mean, you like whatever is gonna be whatever I can do.
Yeah.
I used to have rocks in my like crystals in my bra. That shit helps.
Okay. See, I got a rose quartz mandala, a little meditation. But yeah, it's real. But like, you know yourself ultimately. Let me see, the process of grief, dealing with loss. So this is, I can never pronounce people's names. I think I'm losing my vision.
Sindiswandala.
Sindiswandala, yeah. Can we talk about the process of grief and dealing with the loss of loved ones? And how am I coping? Have you lost anybody lately, Imani?
Luckily, I have not. I actually 2 days ago on Tuesday, because I have a podcast, Imani State of Mind, and it's on all streaming podcast platforms. Yay, me. But in any case, we were talking about grief, and we were talking about grieving our lives pre-COVID. So luckily, I haven't had any loss of people that I know or and love. I know that, you had gone through an insurmountable a lot of just pain this year through, losing loved ones. So I think you would probably be, best to kind of answer that.
Like when we were talking earlier about being on the other side of the couch with, obviously I've seen a therapist for a long time. I've always been a real big fan of therapy, and having a psychiatrist was kind of like, surreal, like, oh, take this medication. It's like, what? But being on the other side of grief, I've talked to a lot of patients about grief. We've cried about it and yelled about it and walked through the Kubler-Ross, denial and
anger, bargaining. I forgot the fourth one.
Literally, we should be better at this, but it's just what
we should be. I was on my podcast and I was like, oh wait, let me look it up real quick. I'm like, I have been memorizing this thing since grad school, and I cannot remember the Kubler-Ross grief stages.
But listen, you had that Siggy Caps down though when she was talking about depression.
Oh girl, I got Siggy Caps down for depression all day.
But yeah, so acceptance is kind of where you end up, and I will say it's the first year is a whole thing. My dad died in June, and it's one of those processes that it sneaks up on you when it sneaks up on you. Mm-hmm. And it could be a color, a smell, a thought, a video. It could be anything, and you could watch something one day and then see it again the next day, and it could do entirely different things to you. Mm-hmm. And I think that is just a part of the process, is being present. And I know someone had mentioned that mindfulness wasn't always super helpful for them. And there is definitely a mindfulness trap, this kind of experience where you become so mindful that you're so in the moment that you can't. Because the point of mindfulness is so you can detach yourself. You can become distant and observe the things that you're doing. But I have been working very hard to be as present with my pain as possible, because there's a difference between pain and suffering. And pain is a biological experience. You stub your toe, you experience pain. You lose a parent, you're going to be fucking sad, right? That is the most natural thing that's going to happen. It is a very biological, natural process. But where we enter suffering is when we either hold on too tightly to pain or we push it away.
Which I'm an expert at. I mean, not anymore, but yeah, I'm definitely an expert in being like, oh, look, what can I do to distract myself from feeling so terrible?
Right. Oh, I'm the queen.
Let's get another job.
I'm the queen of pushing it away and avoid and don't deal with it, and read a ton of books and make yourself as smart as you possibly can so you can avoid feeling shit. You know, but with this one, I decided to do it differently. And I've been forcing myself to sit in it. Like if I feel a little bit like crying, instead of pushing it away, I fully cry. Like I might even like listen to something that'll make me cry even more. Like Beyonce, what's that song where she's holding that little baby and she's talking about like going to the other side. And I was like, that song always gets me. So I'm like, literally, I'm going to go as deep as I can. I'm going to process it. I'm going to sit with it. What does my sadness feel like? I burned myself a few months ago. This is like a tangential thing. I burned my wrist really bad on this like pot, right? And I was at a party because this was pre-COVID. And so I'm trying to distract and just do other things and not think about it. And what I decided to do in the middle of this party was get quiet and do nothing but become the burn on my arm. I wanted to feel every minute of it. What did it feel like for this experience? It was very painful. And I learned a lot about how I relate to pain. And it didn't make the pain go away. Paying attention to it didn't make it go away. It didn't make it better. It just helped me sit with it and sit next to it instead of rejecting it, because it was a part of my life now.
Right.
That burned, my burned wrist, which is healed, was a part of my life, but it healed.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, regarding grief, I can only really speak about when, let me see, this was 14 years ago, and 3 of my grandparents all died within a 3-month period. And so I was just like, I was just overwhelmed, and I did not deal with it properly at the time. Like, I will definitely admit that. And, you know, when it comes to grief and losing a loved one, like people are like, oh, it gets easier, and it gets easier. But then you think, like, I think about them every day. Like, that's never going to go away. And sometimes I'll stare off into space and be like, oh, you know, like thinking about my grandparents or whatever. But I had to get to the point where I had to accept that it's okay to think about them every day.
Yes.
Like it's okay. Like, yes, they're not physically in this like earthly plane, but that doesn't mean that like you have to like, you know, turn your feelings off about them or not think about them. So, yeah, I mean, that's really kind of the only, you know, input I can kind of give. Like it's hard. And it doesn't get easier, but you just kind of figure out ways to cope with it better, if that makes sense.
That's it. I'm even looking into some ancestor work, because I am like loopy. I am very hippy dippy. I mean, I'm literally sitting next to like 75 stones.
I'm the same way. Like, I'm just like, oh, you know what? Like, let me throw this salt over my shoulder. Let me spray my whole like situation with rose water. I'm like, maybe it's bullshit, but it makes me feel better.
That's it. And because, like mentioned earlier, placebo. So placebo is this effect that some people have even said up to maybe 60% or 40% of medication. The effect of medications is the fact that we believe they will work.
Right.
And so if that stone works for you and makes you feel less anxious,
fine, go get you some more.
Get more stones, right? Is that stone going to cure your cancer? Watch Unwell.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Right.
But not being stressed will make everything better.
Right. I mean, I've said to people, I'm like, look, if you walked in here and told me that you hopping up on one leg and singing your favorite song helped your voices go away, I'm like, go on and do that. Go do it.
Listen,
like,
if it works for you.
Right. If it works for you, like if you like it, I love it. Like I'm not, I do deal with medication, but at the same time, you know, I also deal with other methods with my patients of like, okay, what can we do to get you to this point? Because of the patients I see, though, they really, you know, these are not people who can just kind of, you know, be mindful and meditate and then it's just gonna go away. But yeah, I'm like, look, if you want to, you know, hop on one leg and shout at the sky and that, you know, helps you decrease your symptoms, like do what you got to do.
That's it. Like, I'm not gonna judge you,
Right.
as long as you're, you know, adhering to what your you know, what people are telling you to do, your doctors are telling you. I'm looking through some of this stuff to see what we can answer. I saw
I
like
can't judge anybody when I got all these stones in my bra. So
see, that's what I'm saying. Right, girl. Let me see those. Where the but yeah, we're does Instagram not tell you that you're like running out of time now? Okay, good. All right, we can keep going.
no, it does. No, because we have like another 5 minutes and then it's gonna cut off.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
so basically what you're saying is let's just a little wrap up. If we gonna wrap up, people are coming into treatment now more than ever. There's a lot of different ways people can come into treatment through telehealth and things like that. So they don't even have to directly come in to see their doctor. So if they had some stigma issues, now you can kind of get around that. Basically, we talked a little bit about the difference between medical doctors, non-medical doctors. We talked about grief and loss. We talked about medications and different medications that work for people. Anything else you wanted to say, girl?
Yeah, actually, NYC to Kathy just wrote, just asked a question, and it kind of ties in with what we're doing right now as far as the wrap up. So she wrote, why do we have flashbacks? Is that a form of hallucinations? So no, hallucinations they are under the psychosis or psychotic disorders. They can also sometimes be encountered with mood disorders like depression, bipolar disorder, all that stuff. Flashbacks, though, are actually a hallmark of PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it briefly is because we actually, like, the fact that we're having this conversation is because we have PTSD from COVID. And the reason why is because on a Friday, I think it was March 13th or something, or the 12th, it was like, oh, Friday, everything's cool. Okay, wash your hands more. And that's basically it. And then that Monday, Cali was shut down. I was like, how am I supposed to get food? What, do I have a job still? What's going on? So when you get the rug pulled out from under you, and we collectively did as a nation, as a state, as like, you know, internationally, like you really can have really bad anxiety from that and suffer from that. So when you have flashbacks, when you have nightmares, girl, COVID is so ingrained in my head. I had a dream that I was somewhere and like wasn't wearing my mask, and somebody was like, oh, girl, you got to put your mask on. I was like, oh, okay, thank you, my bad. Like that's where we're at right now. Like, it's infiltrated my dreams right now. You know what I'm saying?
You know how many COVID dreams I have? In the beginning of COVID, I had dreams that I was going around my neighbors' doors and licking their doorknobs. This was a fucking dream I had. I had it 2 nights in a row.
You are so dumb. Oh my God.
Like,
you are so dumb.
Literally.
You are so dumb.
And then that rolls into, like, we only have a minute or so left. How African Americans have been traumatized, and people in general, watching these men die on camera, on video, traumatizing, right? And so one symptom that she was talking about with like flashbacks, you know, it's more dissociation and because it's kind of this avoidance of the present moment and being so connected to a past moment and a past experience that you're almost seeing it, you're smelling it, you're feeling it, you're back in it again. And we can really take an esoteric walk down the path of what reality even fucking is.
I mean, basically, but like, I guess I would just say, like, on a real, like, don't watch these videos. Like, don't. Just tell me what happened, and that's fine. So because I can't deal with all of that. And I know that Black people were struggling. I know that it's really hard for Black men out here. You know, I don't want to, you know, underestimate what's been going on with Black women too, who are also, you know, victims of police violence. But I feel for Black men. They really are having a very difficult time right now.
No, and we all have to come together and support one another. I think that growing in empathy and growing in connection is the answer, not growing in distance, and understanding that we all want the same things, even on both sides of the aisle. Some people might be a little bit misguided right now, but ultimately we want
A
love.
little, girl, please.
I'm trying to
I'll
be
say it.
political, girl. I'm trying to be
I'm like, these
political.
motherfuckers is crazy and I'm over it. Okay.
Yeah.
And
But we all,
we might have to like leave it at that.
yeah. All right, we got to be out.